I much prefer history, true or feigned, with its varied applicability to the thought and experience of the reader. Like,
I think that I think that a lot of people acknowledge that they have knowledge gaps and maybe they aren't the best at this. But
Amazon is done. They point blank told us they're using identity politics. That's it. They told us they're doing that.
Else was consistent. Do you think this would have been, a home run, or do you think everyone would still be nitpicking a lot of these problems?
Sexism in gaming.
And fans don't like that. So of course they cannot take the criticism and they're instantly attacking us.
Instagram after being harassed by racist trolls. That is terrible.
Kylo Ren and Poe Dameron fell into a big hole after Rey cut their penises off.
That there is a general hatred of any change that isn't Adam, and that all receive special flame just for being a woman.
Was like, oh, it's so pretty. I'm like, just because it's pretty doesn't make it good. Like,
Yeah, but do we know that it's going to be terrible? I mean, everyone was concerned about the Dune film, and a lot of people liked that movie, and that was that was a big Hollywood production. That could have been a television series easily.
Well, so I'll say that
by everyone you mean like Jeremy made one video on it. Yeah.
Oh no,
Dune, but
Dune,
Dune I criticized Dune when the news came out about the race swapping, but once the trailers, I don't remember a lot of criticism on the trailers, and even I liked the trailer, and I ended up, it's my favorite movie of last year. I loved Dune. I thought it was fantastic.
Well, Denis Villeneuve is also a really good filmmaker, and
he is.
But these are people that don't have any credits doing anything and are J.J. Abrams acolytes. Can't wait.
Yeah,
showrunners.
And so
writers are really good. But
fair points from Lofty for sure. And again, this is why I definitely wanted him to come on to give that side of the equation. I do think, and like I said, I was surprised that the trailer got as much backlash as it did just based on the trailer, because I felt like that was a very normie centric trailer that was designed exactly for what it needs to be, to take that Lord of the Rings branding and go, hey, remember this? You like Lord of the Rings? Well, we've got Lord of the Rings, but this is before the things that you remember. Exactly what Rip is always talking about. These things always work. They always work. So that criticism hitting the numbers it has is a testament to the audience of the Lord of the Rings. That's the point that we're all trying to make. That's a testament to that audience.
People have praised Marvel movies, which I don't care. I'm not going to sit up here and go down a rabbit hole. A lot of them are objectively fucking terrible. And I can, we want to talk about adaptations. You'd be hard pressed to find another person that's more knowledgeable on this shit, despite people clapping like goddamn seals when some of this shit came out. What we've talked about before, and I guess what separates the Marvel and DC normie from like what happens with the Tolkien audience, is that those guys are going like it's an audience that's specifically like very intelligent and knowledgeable on that work. So what other folks may find is nitpicky, like when I grill Captain Marvel or something like that, or Birds of Prey or whatever it is that I may do a video on, a long form video on breaking down. There's a bunch of those going on with like Lord of the Rings, and for various reasons, and everybody has their gripes that are aside, which is why I think it's unfair to talk about like, well, yeah, people pointed out the race issue of the elves or the dwarven chick, but it isn't just that people had issues with. I think actually to mention that, I think is more of a red herring, or rather avoiding the direct criticisms that other people had of this Lord of the Rings deal, whether it be like people talking about the dwarven woman being bearded and shit. We can't act like people aren't talking about that just because there's other people amplifying the racial aspect. I think this Lord of the Rings shit is unique, man. It's different from what we've seen with the Marvel and DC world. And maybe you guys can agree, even in the Star Wars case, it's just too knowledgeable of an audience that they expect to some sort of honor of like the legacy of what Tolkien had set. And if you deviate too far from that, they're going to, I don't think it's nitpicky. I think it's just passionate people that are really into his shit that won't accept anything less.
I don't know if I fully agree. I know there are passionate people that have valid criticisms with the trailer, and I've talked to some of them, but there is a lot of people who have not read the appendices or the Silmarillion or even the books, who are listening to people like Nerderotic echoing their opinions and then coming out and for some reason they are bothered by Galadriel having a sword and riding a horse, even though they've never read any of this stuff. And I feel like they're just like, I don't understand why. Like
who are you? Give an example, because I don't know if
I'm talking about Twitter.
What he's saying. Give an example.
I'm talking about Twitter, like people on Twitter generally. Like I've been talking to a lot of people who have problems with it, and then when I address the problems and ask them if they've actually read the source material, they say no, and then they reference
like I did with comic. But you got see, especially coming from you, and this is a knock on you, Lofty. I would say this is utterly hypocritical to the conversations that we had like 2 weeks ago regarding race swaps in Marvel and DC. You see what it is that I'm saying?
Because you're qualifying Gary as a very knowledgeable source, and you're saying, but you're saying,
knocking Gary.
No, I know you're not. What I'm saying is that you're saying that people are getting their information from Gary, who is a very knowledgeable source, and that's affecting their opinion.
Yes.
How is that? But how is that a bad source to get your opinion from?
No, it's not a bad source.
So
I'm saying,
so how is that?
For example, can I give an example? I think
100%
would help. So the issue with Galadriel riding a horse and wearing armor and using a dagger, right? As somebody who hasn't delved into the appendices and the true lore that that Gary has brought up and a lot of others where she hasn't done that, I don't understand why people necessarily have a problem with that, because she's simply putting on a suit of armor and she has a sword. Like it's not offensive, but a lot of people are taking offense to it because other people who have read the appendices say that doesn't happen in the appendices.
Let me ask you this. Is there an inherent problem with that? And if so, what is it?
No, I'm just wondering why it would. I'm wondering why someone is offended on behalf of other people. That's kind of what
you're wondering why people are offended with secondhand knowledge. That's kind of what you're saying, right?
Because I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. I've read all the books. I've read the trilogy and The Hobbit. I'm a huge fan of the films. Probably The Fellowship is in my top 10, I would say.
These are hypotheticals that are impossible to address because it goes far deeper than a single decision or something like that. It's a far deeper problem with what we're seeing consistently across the board. So it's kind of like when Ivan brought up the point about, well, why couldn't we expand upon this point right here? They're never going to do that because they're not interested in that. Like, so it's a hypothetical that's impossible to address because this problem goes far, far deeper than one particular change. These are talking about the people that are behind the project and they're consistent, pandering and, trying to change lore. So it's harder you can't answer it in one simple switch here.
I mean, honestly, I'm going to try to to say kind of what I think in that regard to answer. Let's say that they do that change, right? That they, even if they keep the casting as it is, and they're consistent with the characters or everything, and that's how it turned out. Let's say that the entire movie was actually or series, whatever, is good, and they're consistent with the characters, despite the race swap. Let's say in that regard, I don't think I would necessarily mind because it's consistent with it, because they're following what, in my opinion, is the most important thing in an adaptation, which is you have the integrity of a character intact. The problem is that, as seen right now with Boba Fett, like when the episode, spoiler alert, but really who cares about it anyways, the Mandalorian did show up in the Book of Boba Fett and kind of took over the show, and I was so excited for it because it's like, oh, and they're gonna show Luke, and I was like, oh, they're showing Luke, this is amazing, this is the best thing ever, and I actually got so hyped. But then I got splashed with cold water because I saw a very blatant bastardization of the character of Luke again, because they wanted to double down on their sequel trilogy. And that just made me realize once again that this is not about the integrity of the characters anymore. It's about you just doubling down on whatever you want to show. And right now, what the promotion of the Lord of the Rings show is showing is that they just want to show the diversity, the shell of the egg instead of the actual content.
And dude, like, I don't understand why they're even owed the benefit of the doubt anyway. I still don't fucking understand that. But even if you detach that from it, I'm not as sure, because I think there are more Lord of the Rings fans that are like me with Marvel and DC than there are with me and Marvel and DC. So I'm not so sure that there would be people that wouldn't be as like having as much issues despite that, because again, there were other things that people had issue. You brought up Nerderotic issues with that were aside from that. But I think that represents a way more of the actual Tolkien fan, or the general fan of Lord of the Rings. And because that sanctity is something that is different than comparison to Marvel and the DC, to what Ryan had said, and I believe Jeremy said it as well, I think that, and this is why I asked Lofty if, like, what is the problem of someone saying that, well, Nerderotic, who is very knowledgeable on this, said that they take issue with that, so they're going to take issue with it as well because that person is more knowledgeable. I don't particularly see nothing wrong with that, because, well, people do that with my stuff all the time, where they say, well, this isn't who this character is supposed to be. Eric did a 2-hour long breakdown of who this character was supposed to be. It's not that character, and they at least want that integrity to be protected regarding that particular brand. So I think it's more of that with the Tolkien, I guess your standard Tolkien fan, than maybe there is with the Marvel and DC. So I'm not as sure that even if you didn't see the race swap, you still wouldn't have people that would take those issues with it. Definitely. And this is why, to Jeremy's point, it is very difficult to remove that from like what Hollywood is doing, because they've been doing it. So I don't even think it's worth talking about the hypothetical, because we already know what they're up to. We've seen that these are the cards that are dealt. We might as well speak about it in that context, as opposed to some hypothetical context that doesn't even really fucking matter, because we know what this is. They've shown you time and time again. This is what I've been trying to talk to people about regarding my own show. Like, dude, you have to accept they're going brand to brand. If they haven't gotten to we saw Disparu raging about fucking A Wheel of Time. If they haven't got to the brand that it is that you love, give them some time. They'll get there. They'll get there. They'll absolutely get there. Anything that you like, they're gonna take it. It's name recognition. Look, I love this. This is perfect. This is perfect. They're going thing to thing, and you have to accept it. So I don't think that neither of these guys that control these companies are even owed the benefit of the doubt. If anything, it's dead on arrival until proven otherwise, considering their track record.
Yeah. See, maybe I understand what you're saying. Maybe I might just disagree with that premise entirely then, because I don't see, like, if you go back to that meme, they skipped Death apparently skipped over Spider-Man, skipped over The Witcher. A lot of people like that show. He skipped over Dune. They don't kill everything, you know.
But the thing is, like, The Witcher,
I disagree on the Spider-Man thing, but
The Witcher's popular. But The Witcher's popular to a lot of people.
No, I disagree objectively speaking, because it was jangling fucking keys with the nostalgia bait. That's what Spider-Man No Way Home absolutely was. It doesn't change the fact that that DC, or excuse me, Disney, or even Sony is compromised. I don't think that changes anything. I think there's going to be bits and pieces that people pick up, but it doesn't stop them from being fucking compromised at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can bring exceptions, but it still doesn't change the rule. So, we could point to something like Cobra Kai, who has Cobra Kai been compromised? I don't think so at all. Even though there are little things in it that are, that bother me. Dune, not necessarily, but those are the exceptions, not the rule. The rule is the top of the entertainment industry has been affected by this, and you can say Spider-Man if you want, and I would agree with you on the No Way Home. I liked it. But Marvel has been impacted by this shit. Yes, the MCU has absolutely been impacted by this. The MCU has a cancer in it.
Was terrible, or whatever phase that was, the last one.
Yeah, so there might be parts of the MCU that might haven't gotten to yet, but the cancer's there. It's there, and so it's been affected. So you can take specifics like Spider-Man, but
I'm not saying you're wrong about what. Like, I agree with you guys generally, like 99% of like I feel like our takes on pop culture in general. I have like some premise disagreements
I think
which is leading into the Lord of the Rings, because all we've seen is a 30-second teaser, right? So I'm not
Why
quite
are
ready
they
to
owed the
say
benefit
that.
of the doubt? I
this is
want to
the-
answer
they're
that.
not owed any benefit.
Why
on,
they owed
this
that?
is
Why,
this is
if
this
they
right
had
here.
proven otherwise with brand, why
And-
are they
Yeah.
owed the benefit of the doubt? I
That's
would
the-
like
right
to
here.
get
This
an
is-
answer to that.
Yeah.
This is purposely,
I'm
as
not-
I said,
sorry.
it's not my job to give the benefit of the doubt. It's their job to get me to care enough
Bingo.
to watch it. That's what it comes down to. Is we have given benefits of the doubts at certain levels.
I did
We all
more than
have.
anybody with Marvel and fucking DC. So,
I did with Star Wars. I fucking did with Star Wars for so
it
so
took
you're
me a
talking
long
to people.
time to fucking
yeah.
tap out of the goddamn matrix and realize this is fucking. I'm being fed.
Yeah,
dog
so,
shit,
so,
man.
so I guess your point, Lofty, like you are talking to a lot of people and that represent other people that have been giving the benefit of the doubt for a long time. So I think that's why people are so hypersensitive to say, if I see anything that concerns me, I'm out, because you've burnt me in so many other areas. So that's I think that's one of the reactions you're seeing, is that so many people have felt burnt by so many other things. Now, if there's any hint of that, we're done. You know, that's kind of where it's at. So go ahead.
Can I just say one
I
thing?
get Lofty's,
Jay,
I get what
Jay.
Lofty is saying, to be like, I just want to be.
Oh,
It's okay.
100%.
Yeah.
No, Jay, you've been trying to talk for a minute.
I
Go ahead.
don't. Well, it's because you guys know a lot more of Lord of the Rings stuff than I do. Just a movie fan. Read the books. They made me read the books in college, but that was about it. When I watched the trailer,
I read it in 7th grade.
if they didn't put Lord of the Rings in it, I wouldn't even know it was a Lord of the Rings film, because I couldn't even. It didn't look like anything. It just looked like a cheap sci-fi to me. That's just me. I didn't think the trailer was woke or anything like that. I just was like, if I didn't see the name Lord of the Rings or the words, I wouldn't even think it's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, well, and the thing is,
that's just me. So I had like no. If they didn't even put Lord of the Rings on it, I'd had no desire to watch it. I just would have been like,
before you go, Mike.
That's
let me
the
say
point,
just,
and
just
that's the
really
point.
quick before you go, Mike. This is what, because I put a post out that said exactly this. What I hate of all of this will be the last thing. I know I don't talk to fucking enough. Like, what I hate about this era is that it has completely destroyed our set of individual standards. That now we look at shit and we say, well, it's not woke, and therefore that means decent or good or great or something like that. If there's anything that I think is going to linger for a long period of time that isn't attached to the other shit, it's that. It's exactly that. It's the fact that now it's like we look at this and we say, well, what if it's not? That's like, well, that doesn't mean that it's not, it could still be dog shit. I mean, I went through so much mountains of other stuff with like Marvel and DC in terms of how it was terrible. And not all of it is because it's woke. And unfortunately, because we've been fed a lot of this shit, that's where we're gearing towards. And I find even some of my colleagues gearing towards, well, it wasn't woke. And I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah.
Does that mean that it was good? Like, not necessarily. So I don't talk too much.
No, it's fine. Obviously,
you're good, man.
But
you really have to bring up fucking Chris Pratt show.
No. I'm not. If you want to see something, if you want to see something that's not woke and it's still bad, go watch Snake Eyes. Fuck that movie. Fuck it straight to hell. And it's not even woke. It's not.
But didn't they race swap the main fucking character?
They
what are you
did,
talking about?
No. That's fine. That decision was fine. But the point is that he could have been anyone in that film, but the film itself was not woke, and Snake Eyes didn't need to have a face. So they were just changing continuity for continuity's sake. The problem is in that movie, they felt like the only thing Asian people can do is kung fu. Every fucking Asian person in that movie, like X-Ray Girl, is probably a black belt in that movie, like, because they think that that's the only thing that they do. Every Asian person. But the point is it's not woke. It's just a bad movie. So and look, I know I brought up the Chris Pratt stuff plenty of times, but it's not like I think that's the greatest movie ever. But I did enjoy the hell out of it. It was dumb. It felt like dumb 90s fun. You know what I mean? That's what it felt like. It felt like a dumb 90s fun, which that was what was refreshing about it. It's not a good movie.
Like I said,
all Mike I've seen is Mike's ready. Mike's ready. Mike's
He's
ready.
cracking his knuckles.
No, where I'm coming from, I haven't quite seen enough red flags to completely turn me off. But this quote needs to be adhered to. This is directly from Tolkien. It talks about allegory and political metaphor and in fiction. I cordially dislike allegory in all its manifestations. and always have done so since I grew old and wary enough to detect its presence. I much prefer history, true or feigned, with its varied applicability to the thought and experience of the reader. I think that many confuse applicability with allegory, but the one resides in the freedom of the reader, and the other is the purposed domination of the author. So, yeah, I mean, if they can somehow avoid inserting political allegory, and I think Dune did this to some degree. It's stuck to the premise of the book and the politics of Arrakis fairly closely. That's all I want. I want good writing, really good acting, and I don't want modern politics inserted into like a 60-year-old novel. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm looking for, and I haven't. Yeah. So.